for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson. I am the founder and lead host of this show, as well as its executive producer. Katy Steele and Jack Prince are both off, and it is my job on behalf of them to wish you a very Merry Christmas. We are releasing this show on Friday, December 24th, 2021. On Christmas Eve. We're going to have a little bit of new content, including a Hammer Time segment, but this is going to be a best of Southpaws, and we've dug a little deep into the archives, and we've got some really fantastic stuff. A lot of it you have never heard since it originally aired. So before we continue with today's show, a couple of reminders. You can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, or Reason.fm by doing a search for Southpaws. Once you found our logo, you found us. We send links to our weekly episodes to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube accounts. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern, and you can listen to us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, and KEPJ in San Antonio, Texas. So please be sure to listen to us on your local Pacifica station. And before we get into the best of, we might as well play the appropriate music.
Stop! Hammer time!
Oh yeah, it's hammer time. It's time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. This week's winner, Senator Joe Manchin, West Virginia. He calls himself a Democrat, but he isn't. He's a conservative. He is Republican light. Why does he win douchebag of the week? Well, Manchin has decided to vote no on the Build Back Better program. I'm irate at this. I can't even begin to tell you how hot I am about this. And I'm not the only one. Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, independent, said if Joe Manchin doesn't have the guts to stand up to the powerful special interests, he's going to have to explain that to the people of West Virginia who are hurting and hurting badly. The problem is the Manchin doesn't give a damn about the people that he's supposed to be representing. He doesn't care. He cares about the money that he's getting from big coal and from the pharma industry that his daughter is a part of. You know, the same daughter that raised the price of EpiPens. That's where Joe Manchin's loyalties lie. His loyalties don't lie with us like Bernie Sanders' loyalties do. Joe Manchin is in the pocket of the rich. Hell, he's part of the rich. I just did a quick little search on my phone. Joe Manchin's net worth is anywhere between $5 to $8 million. I want to ask you listeners, are you worth $5 million? Are you worth a tenth of that, which would be $500,000? Are you worth a hundredth of that, which would be $50,000? A lot of people don't make $50,000 a year in this country. Certainly not with one job. I'm calling on any progressive, any actual, real progressive in the state of West Virginia who wants to primary Manchin out, please start running for office now. get this 74-year-old dinosaur Republican in Democrat clothing out of office and into the unemployment line. And for all you Democrats that start in with your vote blue no matter who, this is what you get when you run that policy. When you start with vote blue no matter who, you get folks like Manchin, like Kirsten Sinema, like all the other centrists. It's to the point most Democrats wouldn't know a progressive if one jumped up and bit them on their ass. They can't recognize progressives because they're out of touch. We'll get to some examples of a couple of out-of-touch people on past clips of Southpaws, me being one of them, but I smartened up pretty quick, thankfully. So to Joe Manchin, we have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
You got that right. Hey, Joe, stop sucking corporate money and stop being a douchebag and start supporting your fellow citizens, the actual people you're supposed to represent, not your corporate interests, not your owners. Well, let's get on with the rest of the show. The first clip I'm going to go ahead and play is from July 22nd, 2015. Now, I have played bits and pieces of this on past episodes. So let me set this clip up for you. I'm in the studio with Joe Elder and Nate Kettle, who I've talked about on this show, hardcore Democrat, establishment hack. I should have known better than to give him his own show, but anyway. On the phone was Jim Goerner and Buck Geno. Buck Geno has been a union member for decades. He was part of the station that I was on. He was the co-host of his own show called Work in Progress Radio and appeared on a show that used to air on Pacifica called The Union Edge. So this clip runs a little over 13 minutes. It's the five of us talking about voting, gerrymandering, and Joe and Nate go at it over the Democratic Party. Folks, one of the best clips of all time. Take a listen to this.
One of the things, fellas, I know you got a lot of things to do today, but one of the things that we need to talk about how we can, speed up this process is if we can ever get to what some of the progressives are talking about in Michigan, to where we have an independent or citizen-led committee that draws these districts in the state Senate and the state House.
Buck, you must be reading my mind because I've got a story by Jonathan Oosting over at MLive. Listen to this. Okay. Michigan Democrats in the state House are renewing their call for a citizen-led redistricting commission in the wake of a recent U.S. Supreme Court decision that affirmed a similar model in Arizona. Representatives John Hoadley and Jeremy Moss are reintroducing legislation that would create a bipartisan and independent committee to draw new political boundary lines each decade following the national census. Hoadley, Democrat out of Kalamazoo, says he hopes to take politics out of the redistricting process, which is currently controlled by the majority party in the state legislature at the turn of any given decade. Now, here's something I didn't know. The Michigan Constitution of 1963 called for a bipartisan redistricting commission, but the rules it was supposed to use were invalidated by a U.S. Supreme Court decision the following year. Instead, Michigan's redistricting process is now governed by state statute, which can be modified by whichever party happens to hold power in Lansing. Republicans oversaw the process last time around. The new lines they approved in 2011 won pre-clearance from the U.S. Department of Justice, but were sharply criticized by Democrats.
You're exactly right, and the thing of it is that it's exactly what the cheap labor conservatives do. They pick the part of the Constitution that they want to go by, and then discard the part that they don't. And that's always been my argument all along. If you're going to go by the Constitution to the letter, then you go by everything.
Yeah, right here's a perfect example of what gerrymandering has done to the great state of Michigan. Mm-hmm. Democratic candidates for the state legislature reportedly combined to receive slightly more votes than Republicans. It isn't reportedly, it is fact. It is Pure fact, Jonathan Oosting over at the Grand Rapids Mess.
I think it's pronounced Oosting.
Whatever, he can kiss my ass, son of a bitch.
Ooh, well, you got a dump out now, Nathan?
I don't need to dump that. I didn't call him that word.
Yeah, by the way, I'm gonna need a list of words I can and cannot say.
Then
right.
I will provide, and I'll provide you a bleep so you can edit it out. Let's see. By the way, and the Republicans won 63 out of 110 seats in the state house and 27 out of 38 seats in the Senate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same thing nationwide, even.
because they're a bunch of damn cheaters, and I'll just say it right on the air. You Republicans, you're a bunch of damn cheaters.
Cowards.
Screw you.
They're cowards, is what they are. They're afraid of a fair fight, and so they have to, they have to cheat.
Now, I will quickly say, though, because we know of all the Democrats that don't gerrymander their own districts right, and also work to un-gerrymander their district when they have the percentages higher.
We know
that, right?
It's not as prevalent as the Republicans,
well,
and there's numbers to
never
prove.
Well,
but if we're
it's
saying
never even close
you're
to
right.
being as bad.
So we'll concede.
So let's not go with one side does it and the other one does.
No,
that's a
this
load of
false
bullshit.
equivalency.
Sure, we will. We'll go with that because the claim was they're cheaters and they don't want a fair fight. Well, neither do your boys, guys. Neither do they.
That's not
They
true.
don't go for a
That
fair
is-
fight
that
when they
is
get
a load
their
of crap,
chance.
Joe.
That is
They
false
don't go for a fair
equivalency.
fight when
That
they
is
get their
false
chance.
equivalency from your little libertarian
Yes,
bullcrap.
it is.
Okay?
Yeah, it's false equivalency
It
that
is
both
false
sides
equivalency.
gerrymander districts.
Yes,
I'm
it's a
some
lie.
crazy.
You're lying right
Yes.
now, Joe. You
'Cause
are lying.
Democrats-
you know damn
Democrats
well. You
do
know
not.
damn well that Democrats do not do it
As
nearly
much.
as much
There
as
you go.
Republicans.
Nope.
Good
point, Nate. They don't do it as
so
much,
they
but they
kind
do
of
it.
tend to favor themselves a little tiny bit, but they go out of their way to make sure that it's somewhat fair, at least.
Yes.
Okay, so enough with your false equivalency crap, which is what it is. Democrats,
It is, yeah.
Democrats
It's-
are not
I'm
Republicans.
the one
Joe.
full of crap, and you're the one that said that they do it
Occasionally,
some of the
you know what
time.
gets me about your libertarian bull crap
Give
is
it to
that
me.
you're angry at the Democrats because they occasionally act like Republicans, and so you vote for libertarians, which basically means you vote for Republicans. If you don't vote for Democrats, you're voting for Republicans.
Number one.
So you're angry at the Democrats for acting like Republicans,
Yes.
and so you give Republicans your
No,
vote. Good job. Good job.
Number one.
Joe.
I'm glad you two are on separate
20
sides of the table here.
20-second response.
Go for
Number
it.
one, haven't voted for, only have voted for one libertarian in my life. Number two, been extendedly disenfranchised by the Democratic Party, having grown up in a Democratic household and being consistently disappointed in their effort and consistently disappointed in the
Because
fact
why?
that they do not go after. Number one,
Because they
don't
kind of
represent
act like Republicans.
No.
Up at the highest levels of the Democratic
don't.
Party and the federal government, yes, some of them act like Republicans.
No,
that
it's
is
the
your
same
only
system.
argument against the Democrats, is that they occasionally act like Republicans.
We will see. We will see. Last thing I'll say here, we'll see how good the Democratic Party is and how faithful and how fair they are and how illustriously better they are than all other parties when they screw Bernie Sanders over in his own Democratic caucus. We'll see. We'll see. You guys will say that they won't, but you have a little pitter-patter in your heart knowing that will flip and happen, my friends, because it's a fixed game and they both suck.
And if
both
they,
parties
and if they do
suck.
At the highest
And if
levels
they-
of the federal government, yes, the Democrats
Yes.
do.
And if
Some
they-
of the Democrats
and
do act like Republicans.
And if they do that to Bernie Sanders, you can guarantee I will be the first one to call them out by name and tell them what I think about them.
Yeah, well, get ready because it'll happen.
Time out, fellas.
Yeah, go ahead.
One
Boy,
of the
Buck's
things
being the voice of reason
Yeah,
here.
thank
which
you,
is-
Buck. Fight.
One of the things I want you to realize is, and like I said, I talked about being a 43-year member of a union, but I've been involved in politics for 43 years, and you're absolutely right. What happens when you see the pendulum swing, because I've seen it swing both ways, what you see is when the Republicans get control, cheap labor conservatives, I don't like to call them Republicans, I call them cheap labor conservatives. When they get control, they set a game plan, and they stick to it, just like they do now. They're talking about how they want to destroy unions, how they want to set them. When the Democrats get in power, you're exactly right. They all of a sudden they want to sit around and they want to sing Kumbaya with the Republicans, And because, well, they can't, it's like the old analogy is, can't we all just get along? Well, no, we can't.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, and that's what I would always wish about progressives or Democrats, Joe, is that just once I'd like to see them get in power and say, here's our game plan.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do this. And one last thing before, and one of the things I've always said, and this is what I want you to take, because we went a full circle here.
Mm-hmm.
When Barack Obama was elected the first time, I said that we need a progressive president for the next 16 years to change things. And what I mean by that, you've seen what happened in his first terms. He's had appointments to the Supreme Court. If we get 8 more years of a Democratic or a progressive president, whether it's Hillary or it's Bernie Sanders or any of the other cast,
Martin O'Malley.
when they make those appointments, because there will be some, the Supreme Court, that's when you can start to make things changes. Because all these things that you talked about, all these constitutional things, all these things, we've seen it with health care, have come, and the Supreme Court has made the decision. They're the people that make the decisions for this country. And if we can get just 8 more years of a progressive president, that's when you can see that we can finally start to make some changes for the workers in this country, the ones that Ronald Reagan screwed up.
And not even just a progressive president, even Hillary.
Yeah. Here's what the plan that's being introduced in the Michigan legislature looks like. The plan would create a 14-member commission, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, 4 people who are not affiliated with either political party. Anyone who has served as an elected official, political party officer, or a lobbyist within the previous 10 years would be excluded from being on this commission.
Yeah. Well, and to Buck's point, what he said earlier about Republicans, they stick together. They do. For whatever reason, Republicans, especially in off-term elections, Republicans, for whatever reason, they stick together. Every time we have a Democrat on our show, Brandon Dillon said it all the time, every time he's been on our show, we got to get our people out to vote. We got to get our people out to vote. And they don't.
No.
For whatever reason, Republicans do
because
vote.
they're totalitarians at heart, and they love being told what to do.
I'll also tell you.
I'll go ahead, Darren.
And Democrats, it's like herding cats.
And not only that, the Republican strategy when it comes to running campaign ads is you go negative. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Because it keeps the people from the opposite party from voting.
I think,
exactly.
I think
Scott
too.
Walker said. Scott Walker on tape.
Mark Jason told that to our boss.
Now, what I think
Divide
is,
and conquer.
I think it's
Scott
in a
Walker's strategy. Divide and conquer.
It is.
He's on tape saying that.
And I think
and then
it's
you
in
get
a spectrum.
people saying that Democrats are just as bad as Republicans.
Now, hold on,
it works
before
really
we-
well.
now,
doesn't
wait,
it, Jim?
now, before we get into that argument real quick, this proposal, by the way, is probably not going to go anywhere because the chair of the House Elections and Ethics Committee has said that she's not going to hold a hearing on it. And you know who that is?
Oh, jeez.
Lisa Posthumous Lyons. Roy,
I'll say it.
Roy, I can get you some Grand Rapids police officers off duty to protect you.
Let me
Lisa
say this to make it go around and have it fit full circle. My issue is I'm not saying they're the same. Let's make a basketball analogy from it. The two-party system, for some reason, we have Dems and reps alike thinking we're comparing Michael Jordan to some average player and saying, look, here's the great group. Here's the terrible group. This group's way, way, way better. I mean, we're talking the greatest ever. This group's the worst. They're awful. This is Horace Grant compared to MJ. I'm saying both parties are like Steve Kerr and Tony Kukoc. Irrelevant. Not very important. We could have multiple players in the game that are much better than either of them, and we don't even talk about them because we're fixated on a two-party system.
Right.
And I think
because this is America, dude. We've always had a two-party system. We're always going to have a two-party system. You're not going to change it. Nobody's going to change that. So get on board, pick a side, and quit this wishy-washy bullcrap.
So let's play capture the flag. Nate will dress in red. We can have the reps dress in blue, and we'll just play capture the flag, and whoever wins gets to be president.
Here's the deal. Get on the team.
Let's play dodgeball.
How about this? Get on the team and start coaching them and make them better.
I guess
join the team.
I guess I'd say
Pick
I'm not
a
as.
Side.
I guess I would say I'm not as I'm not. Number one, I'm not as groupish. I'm just not as tribalistic. I don't have as tribalistic tendencies.
Right.
I believe in being able to eat meat and spit out bones.
That's nice.
I believe in being able to make choices.
That's real nice. I believe in reality.
Yes.
And the reality is we have a two-party system. Yes. Pick a side and make it better.
Oh, boy.
Pick a side, work from within, and make it better.
You
instead
terrify
of just
me, man.
complaining about how everybody sucks.
You scare me, buddy.
I don't want to pick a side. Everybody sucks. I'm on the outside. Look how awesome I am. Out here, not being part of it. Oh, God.
True.
No.
Oh, my gosh.
Pick a side. Quit this wishy-washy bullcrap.
Hang on.
Hey, fellas.
I have a problem with
I
Joe
really-
saying...
Go ahead.
Hang on, Buck. Jim, what are you going to say?
The only problem I have with Joe saying Steve Kerr is irrelevant. He's got the highest three-point percentage.
Thank you, Jim.
Buck, go ahead. Hey, Buck, you there?
Oh, no.
Hello, Buck?
Oh, no. I
I think we're losing
Did
him.
we lose you, Buck?
Yep, maybe so.
Cell phones.
Yeah.
Are you there,
He probably
Buck?
got tired of you guys arguing.
He could have. Yeah.
We lost Buck. Yeah, we lost Buck. Hey, Buck, if you get a chance to call back, please do it. Hey, we got to take this break 'cause we're way the hell behind.
I encourage everyone to take every opinion as it comes and don't just pick a side. That's an illogical way of thinking about anything.
No.
Gotcha.
Not in America.
All right. You're listening to Southpaws Radio. We'll be right back.
Whoa. I forgot how bad it got between Joe and Nate that day. Man, I'm glad I walked out of the studio to grab the phone right at the end there. A couple of points that I want to make. We talked in that clip about the Citizens Redistricting Commission and how the state legislature wasn't going to pick it up. Well, the voters did. In 2018, Michigan voters passed Proposal 2, which started the Citizens Redistricting Commission, which they're meeting right now. They're actually finishing things up for the 2022 election. The commission is made up of 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 5 independents that have not held public office or have been a lobbyist for the last 6 years. So that was passed by the voters on a vote of 61.3% yes, 38.7% no. You know, there's a point that Nate Kettle made in the clip where he said, oh, you need to join the party and change things. The problem is you can't make a party better when the leaders won't even let you in the door. And they prove that they do this over and over and over again in Kent County, in the city of Grand Rapids, in the state of Michigan, in other states. Nationally, they do this. Look how many times they've screwed Bernie over. Look how they screwed Bernie in 2020. First, they have a large field of candidates. Then when they found that that strategy didn't work, they recruited Joe Biden to run. And then all the other candidates dropped out and threw their support behind Joe Biden. This is what the party bosses do because they're doing the biddings of the oligarchs, of the real people that run this country, that own this country. Like Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And there's more proof of that. I want to get to our next clip here. This is from the March 23rd, 2016 episode. This runs about 20 minutes. This was the day that I made my big announcement that I was leaving the Democratic Party, that I was never going to give another damn penny to the Democratic Party. And this was also the day that I walked out of the studio mid-show because I was so pissed off. I literally did leave the station and drive to the local bar that was close by and had lunch and had a couple of drinks. And I came back when I felt better. So I haven't heard this in a while. Folks, you'll enjoy this. Take a listen.
Jim and I are pissed this morning.
Yeah, I am. And I think you're equally as pissed, and I think I'm looking at somebody else over here.
I haven't heard the full story, but from what I've heard,
yeah, explain it first.
Not
then.
thrilled.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay.
I'm too irate.
Okay, well, you'll jump in anyway.
I sure will.
The Arizona primary last night. Now, if in fact we lost by 18 points, even though we won, when I say we, I'm talking about Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton, okay? It's pretty easily known that I'm a big Bernie fan. So here's my problem with all this. Now, he took Idaho 78-21. That's 57-point spread. Just smoked them up there. Utah 80-20. And then Hillary apparently picked up Arizona 58-40, and that's 18 points. So 57-60, and then Hillary got one for 18. The big question out of this deal is talk about voter suppression. I mean, they let all the cats out of the bag down there. Lines were so long, literally spent all day, an entire work day waiting in line. Something could be done about that.
People were in line at least 5.5 hours waiting to vote, and then turned away after the polls closed.
Yeah, for some of these other reasons. Well, besides that, even if they get in. And the number 2 one I got here is a clear voter suppression in Latino neighborhoods. Okay, they know where all they're at, and taking a big stick to that is doing everything they can. And maybe pretend language barriers and all this sort of thing, anything to turn away as many of them. And number 3, the Democrats mistakenly were registered as independents. Now, I believe what that means is I went in there and told you I was a Democrat, and they marked an independent, and they walk away. And then they can get a provisional ballot. Like, oh, this isn't right, and so we give you a provisional, like a fill-in ballot, to probably try to figure it out. And independent ballots don't count. So that's a convenient way of screwing more people into not voting.
Yep.
Number 4th one, we can go back to any of these here. Let me just get through them first here.
Okay.
Then the 4th one is suspicious evacuations of the county buildings or the voting centers at peak voting times. I mean, really, come on now. There's a bomb in the building, everybody out. You already got a giant line. And to say that we need to evacuate, I mean, is that going to turn everybody off or scare everybody off, for gosh sake? Well, I ain't going to take a chance. There might be a bomb here. Now, anybody can call any of this stuff in, but it's just it's quite a coincidence with this other voter suppression. This would do a tremendous job of voter suppression, especially with the Brussels attack yesterday.
Jim, let me just repeat what I have said since day one on this show. There is no such thing as coincidence.
Well, and that's what it looks like here. Then the 5th thing, the media calling Arizona a win for Hillary while there's still people in line. Okay, that was like here in Michigan that day when I looked at the 6 o'clock news and the polls aren't even closed yet, and they're basically calling this a winner already. And, of course, that will turn back. Well, might as well not vote. Let's go have a burger and go home because it's over, okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, just those words over any of the media, and, of course, the big media, if Bernie Sanders wins, it's going to cost us money.
Yeah, because they're going to get broke up.
That's right. And that's what's steering this thing. And it'd be comical if it wasn't so serious. Like, well, they hate Hillary so much, but they want Bernie to win. But then they don't want Bernie to win because they hate Hillary so much, and we'll call him a socialist and do. I mean, they're shafting both of them. I mean, if there's one of them are going to win. But I think the big money, Darren, I think you agree with me here, they're the ones steering this thing because it's going to cost them billions for Wall Street and big corporations and big banks to be not be a monopoly anymore.
So what you're saying is there's a whole lot of dirty shenanigans within the Democratic Party?
That would be correct, Stan. Well, it's the Republican Party, or they're trying to mess it up. I mean,
Is it the Republican Party or the Democratic Party?
I think it's the Republican Party. If they have less voters, then they always do better. Now, I don't know how they can do better with a primary because it's none of their business, and it doesn't matter if 10 votes are voted or 10 million are voted.
Yeah.
I don't. What do you think, Darren?
Well, tell you what, I've got some video right here. This is from NBC affiliate KPNX Channel 12 in, I'm assuming in Phoenix. I'll have to double check, but yeah, they did a story on this. Probably one of the very few news outlets that's reported on this. So here it is.
But the major story from this election day isn't the results. It isn't who won. It's all the trouble that people went through just to be able to vote.
Actually, I'm told about more than 2,500 people showed up right here in East Mesa to come out and vote today.
Wow.
So it had, what did they say, there's 60 or 70 polling places down from 200?
Down from 200.
200 down to what? 70?
60.
You know, Darren, I experienced this with the first time I voted for Obama. And the precinct that I had been voting for decades. And all of a sudden, it was lines around the block.
Right.
And they actually had to bring in water, like they were saying here, for people to because they were.
But they didn't cut you off, right? Or did somebody wait behind you?
Fortunately, I was there like in the early morning, whatever. But I don't know what happened at.
So you don't know what happened later
time.
on in the day.
Yeah. And what I'm getting from this is though this is something local. This is not. I don't think this is design. This thing has to actually happen. How you design your precincts and how you distribute the places where you vote. Isn't that true?
Yeah, but if they reduce it from 200 to 60, that's automatic chaos.
It's not just chaos; it's suppression.
It is.
It's absolute suppression.
Well, what about, now there's a distinction between primary and general election, too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, this one is so important. That's why this Bernie thing is catching on so much. This primary has to happen. This is the general election for me.
Yeah,
Bernie's got to win. He'll already kick Trump's ass. I already know that.
Yeah, every single poll says he would by double digits.
And, and
a wider margin than what Hillary would.
If somebody else wins, I guess they do. But in the meanwhile, we're still here. And we're recognizing suppression here.
And there's...
I don't even know why. It's big media, big business. You were just asking the question a few minutes ago, Stan. Well, who's doing it, Republicans or Democrats? And it's big business because they're going to lose a lot of money because they got to pay their fair share of taxes.
I don't think it matters. I think if you're a Hillary voter, I support your right to vote. This is suppression.
Exactly.
I don't care. Nobody's vote should not be counted.
Exactly.
Right.
It's institutional suppression coming straight from the top of the Democratic National Committee from Debbie Wasserman Schultz, period, end of story. If you don't believe me, then you're a freaking moron.
But I don't care what side you support or who it's coming from. It's got to stop.
Exactly, and that's why I'm making this announcement. As of last night, I am no longer a Democrat.
Crickets.
Absolutely. I will know. They will not get another damn penny from me ever again. Ever. You want suppression, you want disenfranchisement, congratulations, you just got it. Because when November comes, if Bernie doesn't get the nomination, it's Jill Stein and anybody down ticket. If there's not a Green Party member, no vote. I'm done. Congratulations, you just disenfranchised one of your biggest supporters. Hope you're happy.
Yeah,
and if anybody wants to start chining me on the phone with this, I'm going to drop you like a bad frickin' habit today. Don't even call in.
No, I just wish that independents could support with enough coherence and unity a third-party candidate.
Yeah, and just because of that, now I got to stay in because I got to fight this thing from inside. Because I can't walk away from this stuff is heinous. I mean, you're right completely. This is the biggest pile of.
I'm done fighting. The entire structure needs to be completely disassembled.
Well, and that's true. Mm-hmm. But I ain't walking away from it to let it hang where it's gonna and waste 20 years of my life trying to get the purple party.
I'm done. Wasted 40 years. So
I understand.
Being the only one in the room here that's been black almost all my life.
Yeah, exactly.
You've done a good job.
I've been
of that,
disenfranchised a long time.
Oh yeah,
and the heritage there. But I will not give up on the institution of democracy, and I am going to
still be democracy.
Fight harder to make things right, because I think I can do more on the inside fighting than the outside.
And I'll tell you what Congress needs to do. They need to draft legislation completely outlawing, banning closed primaries. You are disenfranchising 40% of this country when you hold a closed primary. 40% of this country identifies themselves as independent.
I don't know that I agree with you on that, though.
They have to. You're disenfranchising 40% of this damn country.
No, because
yes, you are.
No, it's a party primary. It's the Democrats have a right to choose their nominee. And the Republicans have a right to choose their nominee.
Our sound effects.
If the independents want to come up with something else, some other party or go to another party, then they have that right. I mean, these are the primaries. And it used to not be so divisive. We used to not have so many candidates that were so different from one another.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference this time
They used to be sort of just clones of one another, and it was like, well, whatever Democrat gets the nomination, great. And it used to not be such a huge deal.
Yeah, the clown car, the way that thing filled up this time around, and everybody throwing their chips in on the table, and of course buying politicians with Citizens United and all this sort of thing. Man, do we have a different election. I mean, Stan and I can say, well, 40 years ago you ought to have seen that election. That was just crazy, blah, blah, blah. No, this is so ramped up. This is so worse. This is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And Darren's right. There's reasons to be very upset about this.
Very upset, yes. But I don't think that...
We're all on the same page with the idea that one side or some entity can cheat. Can't cheat. And that's why everybody's so frustrated.
Well, the light of day is...
It'd be different, though... sorry, Stan. Just real quick here. It'd be different if in the general election they were like, you're not a Democrat or a Republican, so you can't vote in there for the general. But for their party primaries...
Yeah.
They're seeking to get input from their base.
Well, the light of day will shine on these kinds of things. And as soon as the public is aware of this, and obviously they're going to be because we're in the middle of it right now, we can see disenfranchisement and shenanigans going on, and then that's where we can't hide it anymore. So then we have to work on it and correct these things within our party and in the general election as a whole.
One very interesting thing when I got this morning, I didn't stay up late to find out all this stuff, so I was tuning in right away, and they didn't cover this stuff worth a darn. And they didn't cover any of this voter suppression stuff. I caught that on social media, by the way. So down at the bottom of my screen is given all the results and the percentages of everybody, okay? Okay, I'm writing this down so I know what that is. But nobody said anything today about any difficulty in Arizona whatsoever. Like, usually they'd say, well, there's some questionable stuff about that. And they didn't even say that. I found it out the hard way, and on social media. And here we go. If all of these things happen, or something, or the accusations of those 5 things I said about voter suppression in Arizona happened, that'd be all over the news. Now I understand the terrorist attack and all this Brussels stuff and all that. There's massive shootings everywhere in the world every day. I don't want to downplay that. And there was no Americans killed. Maybe that's supposed to make the difference if we really, really care. We do. But this was, I'm telling you, 95% of the news I heard on MSNBC this morning was just that. And briefly, a short statement on who won the primaries. Very brief. And I was very disappointed on that. And these 5 things I just riddled off should have been mentioned and maybe there's something legal that somebody's going to file something on. But, man, I just think that's just flat-out more voter suppression. We're suppressing the suppression.
It's well known that both NBC and Fox are in the bag. We know that. So,
it's taken such a hit on us. I mean, I'm going crazy over this stuff, too.
Well, tell you what, we're taking our break.
Right.
You guys have the rest of the show. I'm going to the bar.
Yeah, I kind of have a tendency to get a little hot, don't I? Hey, I still believe the same things. You can't disenfranchise independent voters. When 40% of the country says no to the Democrats and no to the Republicans, they need a voice. They have a voice now with the state redistricting committee as far as gerrymandering goes, but we need more independents in office. We need more Bernie Sanders. We really do. And I'm not the only one that feels that way. So let's go on to our next clip. This is from the July 14th, 2017 episode. It runs just under 12 minutes. This clip is me, Jack Prince, and KJ Millo discussing political fatigue, authoritarianism, organizing protests, the failures of the Democratic Party, and Trump and his supporters can say anything without consequence. I love having smart people around me, and Jack and KJ are two of the smartest people I know. Take a listen.
So the Senate is at it again. Yet another vote, yet another quote-unquote health care bill. Repeal and replace, and I guess the president was on Pat Robertson's show yesterday basically threatening the Senate, saying, if you don't pass this, I'm going to be angry. You won't like me when I'm angry, kind of like the Hulk, right?
You don't want Donnie to have a tantrum.
Oh, no. Like he hasn't
He'll
had
break
multiple.
his toys.
Donnie needs a binky. Oh, my gosh. So what's going on with that, Jack?
Well, I guess the pushback could be, how do I say, more than what I've seen. There were a couple of minor protests locally. I don't know if you guys saw those. But I would have anticipated some more mass protests, some of those 150,000 around the Lincoln Memorial or something. This has been out in front of us for 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe it's because the media and the Democratic Party is engrossed in still pushing the Russiagate mantra nonstop. We stopped, in my opinion, some legislation with the migration protests that took place across the United States. And I thought that was the warm-up to the season. I'm let down because there is no real pushback to the draconian legislature's vote that's going to take place in a matter of days.
I think people just have political fatigue. I'm exhausted even looking at the news, let alone going out and protesting it.
Yeah, I'm to the point I can't even watch the national news, and I'm getting to the point I can't watch the local news. It's just so depressing.
Well, I'm tired as well, but when I see people in wheelchairs and some people on their deathbeds that were there that they originally put forth the legislation, I would have thought that would have spawned some real protest. It takes what it takes is it takes a democratic organization or a union or unions to organize. You can't expect grassroots organizers to come up with these kinds of numbers. I agree with the fatigue, but let's face it, it's not going to stop.
No, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep protesting. But I'm with you. I myself wouldn't know how to organize a protest. I need someone else to do it, and then I'll turn up. I'll be a body in the ground.
Darren remembers when Snyder was in the height of the controversy over Flint. There was an attempt to get a protest. The black ministers locally were going to have a huge, I actually heard this on 100, was it 100,000 man protest they were going to organize and take to Lansing. And I said on the air to the host of that show that quoted those numbers, I said, if you don't get the unions in this state, or you don't get the Democratic Party to let you use their organizational channels, you're not going to see 1,000 people in Lansing. We're talking about the worst crime in office of any governor in the history of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't get 500 people down to the Capitol. You mean it? The only I went to one. The only protest I saw of any consequence was in Flint, and Jesse Jackson had to come externally out of the state and organize that. Mm-hmm. So that was back when we weren't fatigued.
Yeah,
that was an indication of how flimsy and weak the backbone of protests is in this state, let alone the country.
Mm-hmm. What brings to mind for me how weak and worthless the Democratic Party can be.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
This is going to hit us broadside, and the numbers tell us there's a growing sea of anger and discontent over the Republican bill.
Mm-hmm.
It would seem like you could corral that and demonstrate with that, but it's nothing. Next Wednesday, we're going to get the news.
Yeah.
Without a whimper.
Well, it's scandal of the week. We've been distracted by who knows how many other worthless stories this week.
Exactly.
As long as Trump is rolling out scandals, the Republicans in the House and Senate can keep on rolling out bills that are detrimental to the American public.
As long as Trump gets on his Twitter.
Yeah. That's why they don't take it away. People see the I can't say that word. People see the things he writes on Twitter and say, why don't they take his phone away? Mm-hmm. Like a toddler. Well, it's a distraction.
It's a strategy.
It's the straw man.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Look how awful Donald Trump is. Look at the most horrible, racist, misogynistic, prejudiced thing he said this week, and then we're all on that. And
that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Junk news.
Yes.
Also, we were talking about the Democrats not being much better. They just rolled out their new slogan, Democrats 2018.
Yeah.
Have you seen the other guys?
We don't stand for anything, but look how bad they are.
And we're not making this up. This is not an Onion article. This is mainstream media covering this.
Well, did you see the guy in the New York Times that told the Democratic Party, Penn is his name, I can't think of his first name, that what they needed to do to regain their momentum, and by the way, I don't know when the hell they had any momentum, go back 1,000 seats of unelected, but supposedly to regain their momentum, they need to retreat back to the middle. The Democratic Party needs to retreat back to the middle of the political spectrum.
That's the problem that's got us to this point.
Exactly.
The goalpost keeps moving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Bernie Sanders' campaign was so successful, because he spoke to the underlying progressive movement that's growing in the country, especially among young people. But more importantly, he actually stood for something. He had views. You can argue how principled his views were, where they came from. I believe him to be an incredibly principled and empathetic and moral individual. I really agreed with his platform personally. But whether you agree or not, he outlined it. He knew what he stood for, and he stood up for that. And what we have with the Republican Party is that they're the party of the opposition to just basic rights and American freedoms. And then you have the Democratic Party. They're just like, well, look how bad the other guy is. Everyone's just pointing fingers and saying, this is bad, this has to go away. They don't stand for anything.
Exactly.
Correct.
They just stand against everything and say, oh, we're not them.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't inspire people.
No, and we've seen that in the results of the last several elections. People staying at home, 100,000 voters in Michigan not filling in the top of the ticket, 140,000 in Florida not filling in the top of the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
It's not apathy. It's you're not giving good enough options for people to vote for.
Well,
give them something to vote for, not vote against.
Yes, and it's incredible in our consumer culture. If you think about every advertisement you've ever seen, every commercial you've ever seen, it's images or pictures or a depiction of somebody loving a certain product. They're like, oh, this is the best product ever. I'm not going to pick anything. I don't know what the rules are with that.
Yeah.
But it's always, oh, this soft drink is the best. It's not like, well, this soft drink's okay, but that one really sucks. You think about it in terms of advertising.
Advertisers know how to use superlatives.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it seems like the Democratic Party hasn't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to have a general comment. Look at the other guys. Look at what about the other guys? What is, could we get specific and look at their health care plan?
Yeah.
Can we look at the gratuities that have been to corporations given legislatively in the last 3 or 4 weeks? No, the specifics are never mentioned. I'm not arguing that there aren't any decent people in the Democratic Party. But,
I'm not trying to imply that either.
But to me, they're like bits of sweet corn in a turd. Technically, they've kept some of their integrity, but they're embedded in a institution that's a piece of crap.
That's a very good analogy. I love that analogy, and we need to keep that for future shows, definitely. Wow. I mean, take a look at what happened at Ron Portman's office in Ohio, where a disabled protester, was dumped out of her wheelchair by a cop.
Yeah, I saw a picture of that. Yeah.
And cops are becoming more and more authoritarian, just as society is becoming more authoritarian. You've seen the suppression of free speech and a growing number of state-sponsored bills against lawful protest. Our country loves the Second Amendment. What about the First Amendment?
Yeah.
Oh, but the First Amendment only applies if it's speech that I agree with.
That is true.
We're seeing that up in Kalkaska, and that's a story that I want to get to a little bit later.
Sure.
Have you guys have heard about that, right?
A bit.
I haven't, actually.
The village president of Kalkaska is a big Donald Trump supporter, and he got called out on it. Well, somebody went through his Facebook and found a bunch of very anti-Muslim, anti-Islam, kill them all type of posts.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And he won't apologize for it because
he won't even apologize for that?
It's his free speech. He's entitled to say that.
He doesn't have to apologize, but he should also be prosecuted because that's hate speech.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
you have to be more responsible when you hold a public office.
You remember the guy in Flint that said the trouble is that the quote N-word weren't paying their water bills, and he was gone the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
These people don't have to apologize. That just makes them even more despicable. But that's fine. But they need to suffer the consequences. The system is supposed to have checks on this kind of behavior.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's the difference.
Yeah.
There's no checks.
Yeah.
I mean, it floats down from the top, and now at the lower levels of government, there's no checks. You can say whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
The big boy does. Don Little Hands.
I was going to say exactly. That's exactly his strategy. He pushes and sees how far he can go. And then when he realizes he's gone too far, he's like, oh, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it that way. And then he throws it out on his people that criticize him and say, oh, you took me out of context. You read this into it, and that's not what I meant. So it's on you who are just being offended for the sake of being offended.
Right. Don't you just lower your guard? You know, we had a conversation about how you coexist with a sociopath on the show. I don't know if Darren remembers it, and we had that conversation because we actually were in a professional setting with what we believe to be a sociopath. And one of the axioms is that you compromise so much with a sociopath, trying just to get along. You're just trying to coexist. But in that compromise, you're losing the checks. You're giving that person the enablement. They get stronger. Because of their onslaught, you find yourself acquiescing. And we've had such an onslaught from the Trumps.
It's almost parasitic in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. And folks, I got to tell you, that was one of my favorite clips of all time. And we are hoping to have KJ Millo rejoin us at the mic sometime in 2022. So keep your fingers crossed there. And the last clip I want to play is a blooper reel clip. This is from our October 29th, 2021 episode of Southpaws. This is in our Off the Cuff segment. This was the story about school officials in Hazard, Kentucky issuing discipline after a homecoming rally involved students giving lap dances to teachers and administrators. Well, I'll just play the clip and you figure out why I had to re-record this 3 different times. And speaking of, we might as well get into our off-the-cuff segment. This is Billy Coben and Chris Kenning writing for the Louisville Courier-Journal. The superintendent of an eastern Kentucky school district said appropriate disciplinary action has been taken after photos surfaced showing students giving lap dances to staff as part of Hazard High School's homecoming festivity week. Oh, gosh.
Harper Valley PTA. No, the thing is, I mean, hey, we've got a lot of friction between faculty and students, and now it's absolutely
get your mic closer.
Being personified with a lap dance. I look on the bright side of it, right? I mean, really.
Honestly, I thought it was kind of funny. I'm somebody that is not a very strict parent. I tell my kids all the time, it's really hard to disappoint me. Like, you can get arrested. That's fine. Not a big deal.
It's so Kentucky too.
Yeah, the photos were published on the athletic department's Facebook page, and they've been taken down. Some of the male students dressed up as women and started giving lap dance to faculty, including Hazard High School principal Donald Happy Mobilini, who also happens to be the mayor of Hazard, Kentucky.
This would be on Netflix. Let's face it. This is a 5 series.
And I would pay to be in the room just to see the Karens.
So I'm wondering if he was looking for a happy ending.
I got it. That's sticky.
Oh, Jack. Oh, that one was awful.
You gonna let that fly? Or?
I have to. Oh, gosh. Folks, we are out of time for this week. Thank goodness. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katie Steele. Sorry, this was not an isolated incident.
Oh
my gosh!
Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show.
Wait. Hold on. We'll stop it again. What do you mean this isn't an isolated incident?
I read another. It just said that they caught the super and principal lying about this being an isolated incident. That's what my friend posted.
Okay.
So it wasn't the first time they had kids giving them lap dances. Like, sorry.
Well, it was all the holidays. I mean,
yeah. Let's try it again from the music here. So I'm sorry. Let's see here in 3, 2. So, folks, that's what's happening down in Hazard, Kentucky. It really makes me wonder if the principal was expecting a happy ending.
I'm not even going to go there. No. I shot my wad before.
I didn't hear any of this. I was not even here this week.
Oh, you're terrible, Jack. And, folks, we're out of time for this week. Thank goodness. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katie
You
Steele.
did it again. Damn it. Damn it. You did it again.
There's some message.
This is going to be...
They know I am. They don't care.
This is going to be on the blooper reel. One more time. This is great stuff.
I have ADHD. You have to give me that stuff.
This is great for the blooper reel.
At least we don't have any prop guns. My God, you'd be in real trouble.
My next job is going to be as an armorer.
Oh! All right, one more time.
Fox News.
Oh, God.
Okay, we got to get in the rhythm here.
Yeah, one more time in 3, 2. So that's what's happening down in Hazard, Kentucky. It really makes me wonder if the principal was expecting a happy ending.
Nope, not a word.
Oh.
Not this time, huh?
One more.
Oh, boy. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to those clips as much as I did digging through the archives to find them. There is a lot of material over nearly 10 years. We're going to be celebrating our 10th anniversary in May, and we'll have some details about a special party that we're planning for our listeners, so please keep listening for details on that. But that music means we got to get out of here. I'm Darren Gibson for Katie Steele and Jack Prince. Please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.